40,000 Macedonian soldiers stood against just 4,000 Persian warriors. But numbers meant nothing, because a fearless commander had risen to face them. Aryo Barzan. The battle filled the air. Alexander stood at the edge of the cliff, looking down. His army was trapped in a narrow pass with no way forward or back. A figure emerged from the haze, fearless eyes staring back. Behind him, nothing but death, yet he stood his ground. Alexander shouted, "Who is this man standing before me?" No one answered, only silence and the cold wind sweeping through the mountains. Then, a rain of stones and arrows poured down from the cliffs above. Shields shattered, screams echoed through the canyon. Alexander's soldiers wavered. There was no escape. Wherever they turned, towering cliffs and death awaited. From the dust, the sound of galloping hooves. Suddenly, Aryo Barzan and his cavalry charged through the rocks, straight into the enemy's heart. Spears clashed. Macedonians fell. The Persians struck from all sides, as if the mountains themselves guided them. Alexander unsheathed his sword, commanding, "Do not fall back! Hold your ground!" But his men were already breaking apart in the chaos. A message was sent to Aryo Barzan. A voice echoed through the mountains. "Persians, surrender! This is your only chance for survival!" Aryo Barzan's reply was swift and unwavering. "We do not surrender here." The fate of the battle was sealed. Night fell. Both sides prepared for another fight. The Macedonians scrambled for a way forward, but the mountains allowed no passage. But in the darkness, Alexander had a plan. Someone had shown him a hidden path. Perhaps a Persian shepherd, perhaps a spy. At dawn, before the sun touched the valley, Alexander's forces found their way behind the Persian lines. The Persians were caught off guard. Now, they were attacked from both front and rear. Cries rang out, swords clashed. The Macedonians closed the trap, but the Persians refused to yield. Even as their numbers dwindled, they fought on. Aryo Barzan scanned the battlefield. Only a handful of his warriors remained, but they still had a chance. Looking at his men, he commanded, "We break through." Leading the charge, he plunged into the heart of the Macedonian ranks. The circle of death cracked open. The Persians carved a small path and fled toward the mountains, but Alexander gave them no respite. The Macedonians pursued. The rocky trails were treacherous, but Alexander was determined to see Aryo Barzan's fall. One by one, the Persian warriors fell. But they were still standing, still gripping their swords. Aryo Barzan lifted his head, gazed at the mountains. Without hesitation, he gripped his sword tighter. Moments later, with his last strength, he charged. Instead of surrender, he embraced a warrior's death. At that moment, Alexander just watched. As if, for the first time in his life, he was witnessing something unimaginable. The battle was over. A heavy silence settled over the mountains. The last Persian warriors lay still. Alexander stepped forward, gazed at Aryo Barzan's lifeless body. He whispered, "If this man was my general, I would have conquered the world." That day, Alexander won. But Persia gave history a hero who would never be forgotten. Aryo Barzan's name still whispers through the mountain winds,